Okay, so this episode's going to be a lot different than the rest of them. Um, so basically, normally on this show we talk about movies or games or books or comics and fun shit like that, sports even. But today we're going to talk about something a lot different than those. We're going to talk about mental health and mental illnesses. Because today I was listening to NPR and a woman was giving an interview on a book that she had wrote about mental health. And I listened to it and I thought, that sounds a lot like me. You know? So I thought maybe if I could come out with the podcast talking about my issues, then maybe it could help someone like how that article helped me. So that's my plan for today, is we're going to talk about mental health and mental illnesses. Sorry if I'm a bit slow today. I'm having a migraine or something. It's just not going too well. But either way, we're going to talk about mental health today. I might regret saying some things in this episode just because I'm going to get really personal. You know, so I understand if you don't want to listen to this episode, but if you do, I'd appreciate it, you know? Because this episode isn't to express my opinions or anything. This episode is to help someone if they need it, you know? I'm going to come right out and say I suffer from bipolar disorder. Like, really bad. I take medication for it, and if I don't take it, I'm a wreck. And yeah, I have bipolar. When I was a kid, I thought, like, okay, this is not going to be organized either, just so you know. But, yeah, I have a lot of phobias, kind of. Like, something I'm really afraid of is change. Does that make sense? Like, I'm afraid to put out a new episode because it just changes my algorithm. And I'm like, ooh, I can't do that. You know, I can't change something. And it's frustrating, as you can imagine. It's very frustrating. Yeah, throughout my life, I've had all sorts of, like, little nitpicks about things that have an effect on my daily life. One of those things is I was really afraid of if I did something, and then something else was going to happen. Like, I would think, oh, I can't wash my face today. Because if I wash my face today, then something bad's going to happen to me. Really weird stuff. Like, one of the biggest ones I remember was I had to wash my hands all the time. 24/7. Because if I didn't, something bad was going to happen. Like, I remember when I was a little kid, I thought that my mom was going to get hit by a car on her way out to get the mail at the mailbox. So I'd have to watch her every day. And if I didn't watch her, she would get hit by a car. Even today I suffer from kind of this stuff. Like, if I don't play this video game before this video game, then I am going to wind up a big loser. If I hang out with this person, then I'm a loser. Does that make sense? It doesn't, but that's just what I'm thinking. Another big thing I've had is turning into somebody. Like, for the past, 2 years now, I always worry that I'm going to become somebody else. And I don't want to be somebody else. I want to be me. I want to be the things that I'm good at. But, I used to hang out with this friend of mine. He was a really good friend. Super good friend. And, we would hang out and we would go see movies. We worked together. And he was a loyal friend, you know? And I've had a lot of bad friend experiences where I make a friend, but they're just not very ambitious and loyal to do things. But this guy was great. You know, he wanted to go backpacking with me and all this stuff, and it was great. Like, he was just a really great guy and a really nice friend. But he also had some stealing issues, like he would steal from stores and stuff, and that kind of scared me. Now, you might think, oh yeah, well, that's a great way to end the friendship, but it wasn't, because I was starting to convince him to stop stealing from things. But I thought to myself, if I hang out with that guy, then I'm going to end up like him. I'm going to end up like, I'm going to end up a thief. And I never did. And I don't think I ever would, even if I still hung out with him. But I was helping him. He was, I remember he was about to steal something one time, and I said, no, don't steal that. And he didn't steal it. So it's like, I just think to myself, he was changing. There's no reason for me to break up that friendship. And now, this friend of mine, I've heard, is in the Marines. And he's doing great. But I haven't talked to him. And I really wish that I could. I really, really wish that I could talk to this person. Because I miss him a lot. It's hard. But I've also, I had a friend that did a terrible, terrible thing. And I thought that because I hung out with them, then I was going to be that kind of person too. Now, I don't want to hang out with this person, even if my anxiety was cured, because he did a terrible thing to somebody. But even after he did it, I was worried that because I was his friend and I was hanging out with him, that I was going to do that kind of stuff too. And I had panic attacks all the time because of it. And it sucks. I imagine that your friend does coke. And you think, oh, I'm not going to do that. That's bad. You can't do coke. But then you have a panic attack every day that you're going to become a coke addict. That's the kind of feeling that I had. And it's just not good. A feeling to have. And, definitely be cautious about who you hang out with. And again, I wouldn't want to hang out with this person no matter what. But still, I thought that I was going to become that person because of this. It's just hard. Another thing that I had was I always, I remember a big anxiety thing that I had was when I was in high school. I was in marching band in my sophomore year. And my marching band was doing a show about the Challenger explosion, right? And my director wanted to show us the explosion of the space shuttle because we were making a show about it, and she wanted to show it, And I remember thinking to myself, ooh, it's going to explode. It's going to explode. It's going to explode, And I thought that meant that I didn't feel bad for the victims and stuff, and I was a terrible person. And again, I wasn't rooting for it to explode, but I was like, ooh, it's gonna explode. Does that make sense? And I thought, because I knew that it was gonna explode and I was anticipating the explosion, that I was glad that it exploded. And that's not true at all. I'm not glad that it exploded and that people died. But when anyone looks up the Challenger mission, their most anticipated part is not going to be the beginning or when it's just sitting there. Everyone that's watching that liftoff is watching it for the explosion. It's like watching the Kennedy assassination. What are you watching it for? But I remember feeling like the worst person ever because of that. So if you feel like that at all, you're not alone. And I'm always worried that I'm going to be somebody else. There's this really fat fucking loser that I know. And if I play one video game, then I'm going to be just like him. Or if I want to do this, then I'm just like him. It's hard. I can't do the things that I want to enjoy. Because I'm worried that I'm going to end up like that. And just talking about it now is making my mind go crazy. it's just, it's a hard thing to talk about, but I want to talk about it because if I do, then maybe it will help somebody a little bit. Just maybe. But still. And I started YouTube in the first place because I wanted to create things. And not many people watch my shit, of course. But still, whenever I would make something, I felt a sense of ownership, like I made that, Because I'm going to college for video editing and video stuff. So it's like anything that gives me any sort of experience with that is what I want to do. But I have so many videos that I could have uploaded or that I could have made and done. But my anxiety wouldn't let me. I remember I worked on a series that took me a week to make. And I couldn't do it. I deleted it off of my computer. I remember Injustice 2 came out. I've made a live stream of it. And I worked months to get all the gear in Injustice 2. And then one day my anxiety told me to delete all of my progress. Months of progress. My anxiety just told me to delete it. And you know what I did? I deleted it. And to this day, I've never gotten any of that progress back. Ever. And I never will. My mind is always telling me to do things that prevent me from doing what I want to do. And it's extremely frustrating. Because I know what I want to do. I know what I like to do. I know what I want to do. I know what makes me happy. But half the time I just can't do it. Not because I have something else to do or because I don't want to. But it's simply because my brain is telling me that I can't. And it's not fair. It's not right. It's just really frustrating. That is the word of mental health. Frustrating. It's just so frustrating. And I can remember eventually, I checked myself into a psychiatric suicidal ward at a hospital. And I remember that was my breaking point, sitting there in a hospital room, being kept watch because I was, thinking about suicide. And I just remember sitting there thinking you always think that this happens to other people, but you're not going to have to go through this kind of thing. Why would you have to go through that? It only happens to other people. And I can remember sitting there thinking all of this worrying, all of this is worth nothing. And yet still, after that, it still continues. Still after going to a psychiatric ward like that, I'm still having mental health issues with my bipolar and stuff, Worrying that I'm going to become somebody else than I already am, or worried that I'm going to be a fat loser, or, because No, here's the thing. I'm actually a really responsible kid. I have a great GPA in college. I'm a senior. I got a summer job. I worked my ass off. I, make friends. I live with two of the best friends anybody could ever ask for. And still, my brain says, if you play Grand Theft Auto 5 today, you're a fat loser. And I weigh 180 pounds and am not fat whatsoever. But my brain tells me, if you play Grand Theft Auto 5 at all today, then you are going to be a 300-pound fucking loser. That's what my brain tells me. Can you imagine how frustrating that must be? I'm not that at all. But my brain says that I am. And I know that I'm not. And here's the other thing is, you know that it's not true. You know. But your brain still doesn't let you. Like, right now, I'm thinking if I upload this podcast episode, I can't play this game that I want to play right after it. Now, I know that that's illogical. I know that that doesn't make sense. But who knows? Maybe I'll play it, maybe I won't. It's fucking pathetic. And it's extremely frustrating. It's pathetic. And it's annoying. Now, I will say this. If you are suffering through the same stuff I am, get help. Don't feel like you are judged because of this. You can get help, and you will get help, because if you don't, then you'll lose yourself. You'll lose yourself. You have to get help. And I don't know if therapy is your thing or not, but at least you need to be on some kind of medication. You know, I'm on a bipolar medication, and it works great. Okay? Please don't be afraid. And I know that it's hard. Here's the thing that people don't understand. It's hard to ask for help. Because when you ask for help, you seem weak. That's something that people don't seem to understand sometimes. Like, why don't you ask for help? Why don't you ask for help? Because your brain tells you that you need to handle it on your own. Because you need to feel some kind of strength in your mind. Because when you're in the kind of state where you need help, you feel so weak and helpless. But you think if you can handle it on your own, you at least have some dignity and strength in you somewhere. That's why you don't ask for help. But you need to accept that this war that you're fighting can have more than one soldier. Captain America didn't beat Thanos on his own. You know? He had all the Avengers with him. The medicine and people that want to help you, those are your Avengers. Don't be Captain America broken down looking at Thanos' army. Be Captain America with the Avengers taking on Thanos. Okay? Seriously. You know, and I understand more than anybody that it's hard. I'm still going through it today. I am still going through it today. After I end this podcast episode, I'm going to be just another person that's going through it. This is just frustration and understanding leaving my body right now. I'm no expert. I don't know what I'm talking about, really. But I at least understand it a little bit. I'm not an expert. And no, I don't think I'm better than you at all. In fact, I'm probably worse than you. But if I could just talk about it and maybe help somebody, or at least make them feel like somebody understands them a little bit, then why the fuck shouldn't I talk about it? You know? That's all that I want. I just want to make somebody think like, hey, he's helping me out. You know? That's all I want. You know, and other anxiety issues I've had, I thought that, like, I would, like, wash my hands so much that my hands would be cracked open. Like, I remember, my skin was so torn and stuff. Like I lost, like, a whole layer of skin almost from washing my hands so much. That's bad shit. I remember one time a kid called me chubby in high school. And so I lost 60 pounds and weighed 135 pounds in high school. And I looked like a Vietnam veteran returning home. I looked like an anorexic Vietnam veteran. And if you look at some of my old YouTube videos, like I remember I made a video when I used to be into a show called One Piece. There's a video on my YouTube channel called Sanji Prince something. And if you click on that, you can just see like bones as my body. You know. You can see like my whole rib cage and shit in that video. I remember that. That was bad. Another anxiety thing is like the need to be liked by somebody. You know, I remember being at work and like I always thought that somebody hated me. Even though the people at work got along with me and stuff and they were just fucking around, I thought like every joke that they made was a personal attack. You know? And so it's like a person would come up to me and say like, "Hey Zach, I don't know. I don't fucking know what they would say." But basically what I'm trying to say is, do you ever notice how like you're just in a situation where you want people to like and respect you so much, and then they make a joke, and then it seems like everything that they say to you is a personal attack? Does that make sense? And then you make an even bigger ass out of yourself because you get frustrated with them, and it's like, whoa, I'm just joshing you, take it easy. And then you look like an asshole, even though your brain is telling you that they all hate you. That's another thing that I suffer with. Like, I have a roommate that I love. He's like my best friend. But I always think at the back of my mind that this guy hates me. Even though we hang out every day. And he obviously is my buddy, and he likes me. But my brain just tells me this guy hates me. Which is ridiculous. This guy is going to be in my fucking wedding. But my brain just says that he hates me. What kind of shit is that? You know, and your brain just tells you so many illogical things, but yet it makes so much sense. Isn't that weird? How like your brain will tell you the most weird, not logical things, but it seems so logical. It's crazy. It's crazy. And, you know, it's not something that you can control. That's why you need to get help. Because your mental health can never be cured like this. It can just be held back. But no one is ever cured of bipolar. At least in my experience, anyway. I know people that have bipolar disorder, and like, how can you just be cured of something like that? You can't just take medicine for a couple days, and then one day you're just cured of bipolar. It doesn't work that way. You know? It's just something that you need to get help with, and that's fine. You as a person need to understand that it's okay to get help. And, you know, bipolar is a lifetime disease. It's a disorder that lasts you for life. And if you don't get help, it's going to ruin you. You're going to end up just like me in a psychiatric ward on suicide watch if you don't get help. Finally, I got some serious help after that, and now look at me. You know, senior year of high school, about to graduate college with a bachelor's degree in something that I've wanted to do since I was 7 years old. 7 years old, I've always wanted to make movies. My first movie ever was a Star Wars lightsaber battle. Me and my friends had our plastic fold-in lightsabers, and we would videotape ourselves on an old 90s, early 2000s camera. And we would film in the backyard. And I knew as soon as I was doing that, I was like, this is what I want to do. And I'm doing it. But I'll tell you, when I was in that psychiatric ward, that was the last thing I was thinking of. I thought they were going to keep me there. That's what happens when you don't talk about it. That's what happens when you don't get help. That's what happens when you don't think people relate to you. Now, I can't give you a cure or anything, but I can tell you to get help, and I can at least try and relate to you. Maybe there's somebody else out there that's afraid that because they hung out with somebody, they're going to turn into them. Maybe there's somebody else out there that thinks that they can't play a video game or they're going to turn into a fat fucking loser. Maybe there's somebody else out there that thinks that their best friends don't like them, even though their best friends clearly like them. You know? Just maybe there is. That's all that I'm saying. You know? Now, another thing that I have is, again, I want to do things that make me happy. Just do the things. One of the reasons why I was not making a podcast for a whole month is because I had no motivation to. I had no motivation to make a podcast. And then one person gave me a comment that said that it was worth the wait and they were happy about the episode. And that was enough to get me to make this one. So, you need to think to yourself, are you going to prevent the things that make you happy, or are you going to just do them? And I understand that if you have the same kind of anxiety issues I have, that you're going to turn into somebody else if you do it, you got to do it anyway. And you got to kick its ass. That's what you have to do. You have to do it, because you can't let it win, but you also can't fight it on your own. It's okay that you can't fight it on your own. All of the best people in the world never did things on their own. Bob Ross had to learn how to paint somewhere. Steve Irwin had to learn how to, deal with animals somewhere. Somebody had to raise Mr. Rogers to make him that way. Somebody had to teach Gordon Ramsay how to cook. Somebody had to teach George Lucas about movies. Somebody had to teach Steven Spielberg about movies. Somebody had to teach Quentin Tarantino about movies. Somebody had to teach Tom Brady, the 6-time Super Bowl champion, how to throw a fucking football. Somebody has to teach somebody something else to make them great. That's why everybody has a role model. And you can be your own role model, sure, but you just can't do this alone. You can't. I'm sorry. You can't deal with this by yourself. I know you think you can, but you can't. You can't do it alone. And I'm telling you this so that you don't have to do it alone. Doing it alone is terrible. It's a death sentence if you do it by yourself. And it just bothers me that some people think that they have to do it alone. And it's not true. And I don't want to be a fucking bitch about it. But seriously, society makes you, I hate using that word. Society makes you feel like you can't express your feelings. I think that's because of public shaming. I think it's because of some of the things in our society. I hate using the word society. I hate talking about that kind of crap. Like, society is making us do this. Like, I hate it. But there are some things society is definitely contributing to. But it's society makes you think that you have to do this on your own and you can't express your feelings. But all of the greatest people in the world have expressed their feelings about things. Closeted people are not remembered with, well, maybe Robin Williams. Never mind, I'm not going to make that point. But all I'm saying is, you think about people that make people happy or make themselves feel better. They're expressing things. Express your emotion. Or you're going to end up like Robin Williams, a person that tries to fake their happiness and ends up killing themselves. You don't want that. Robin Williams was a fantastic actor and an amazing man. You know? Chester Bennington died of depression and suicide. And I loved that guy as a kid. Me and my friends would play Linkin Park in the basement. We would play it on our instruments. Those of you that watch my stuff know that I play guitar. We would play Linkin Park in the basement all the time. He brought joy to so many people, but maybe he did get help, but he just didn't. He thought, there must have been a thought in his mind that he couldn't do it with other people. And it's so hard. And it's so sad that people think that they just can't do it anymore. Because I've been there so many times. And it also pisses me off when someone says that they don't understand depression. Like, how can you be depressed? You have money. I remember I was talking to a guy at work about that. And he said, you can't be upset. You have money. Because my parents are successful in financing. And it pissed me off to no end. Anybody can have a mental illness. Obviously. You know, so please get yourself help. And I'm not going to end this with, the suicide hotline and all that crap. Even though the suicide hotline can get you help, I don't really think it's a viable solution. I've called the suicide hotline before. They're not that helpful. And they're not a solution. Talk to your parents. And if you can't talk to your parents, talk to somebody that you know you can talk to. Everybody has someone that they can talk to. And if you don't, then call the suicide hotline. But don't act like the suicide hotline is your first resort. The suicide hotline people care about you, but they don't know you on a personal level. Okay? Am I saying that you shouldn't call the suicide hotline? No. I'm not saying that. But I am saying that it is not the permanent solution to just call somebody that doesn't know you on a personal level or anything. If you have absolutely nobody to talk to at all, then yes, you should call them. But don't immediately call them. If you have a parent that you can talk to the parent because they give a shit about you and they want to help you. Because I've done that. I have called the suicide hotline before and haven't talked to my parents instead. And it was one of the worst decisions I ever made. You know what happened when I called the suicide hotline instead of talking to my parents about it? I ended up in the psychiatric ward of a suicide watch hospital. That's what happened when I called the suicide hotline, when I could have talked to my parents about it. So please, call the suicide hotline as a last resort. Don't feel like calling them is going to solve all your problems. Talk to a parent. Talk to a friend. Talk to any other family member first, if you can. Because they care. And they would do anything for you. The worst thing that you can do is just closet yourself out. That's all I have to say. I really hope that this episode just helps somebody understand, or at least relate to what I've been going through. That's all that I want. I will make a new episode soon. I think the subject is probably going to be, I remember somebody was asking for a future Star Wars thing or something. Maybe a little bit brighter of a subject, obviously. Well, I don't know. the future of Star Wars could be more depressing. But anyway, I just hope that somebody can relate to what I'm going through. And I hope that that will help them. I will see you guys on the next Hold My Microphone. Hold my microphone.